Oftentimes when we purchase skincare, we're not advised on which products or brands go best together and the order in which skincare should be applied, especially if you're purchasing from different brands. So I decided to put together a video for you going over the optimal way of layering skincare. And in preparing that video, I realized there's a lot of tips and tricks and secrets you really need to know first before you can apply the recommendations for layering, because they may be different depending on your need. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you all the tips and tricks and pearls. And in the next video, we will actually go into the layering process. So the place to start is to think about your skincare goals. Once you have a goal, the ideal skincare will target that goal from multiple directions. So for example, in the case of hyperpigmentation, you want to go after tyrosinase inhibition to reduce melanin production with ingredients like hydroquinone, arbutin, cispera, or azelaic acid. The second goal would be to minimize the transfer of pigment that's already been produced with ingredients like cispera or niacinamide. And lastly, to minimize the amount of pigment sitting on the skin by exfoliating and removing the outermost dead skin cell layer. If the goal is an anti-aging regimen, the focus may be to speed up the cell turnover cycle to a more youthful, faster cycle with products that help exfoliate the skin, like alpha hydroxy acids. It may be to stimulate collagen and elastin production with products like retinols, with collagen stimulators, peptides, and growth factors, and also to minimize wrinkle production, sun damage by boosting antioxidants and limiting free radicals. And the most common way to do that is with antioxidant serums and proper sunscreens. Now, in the case of acne, the goal will be to minimize bacterial overgrowth by keeping the face nice and clean, by normalizing the keratinization process so the keratinocytes don't clump up and clog pores. And that can be done with niacinamide and azelaic acid, and also to balance oil production, which can also be achieved with niacinamide and retinoids. So the initial goal is the starting point, and then you don't want to buy a whole bunch of products that all do the exact same thing. For example, they all target the same pathway, because that's redundant and it won't really optimize your skincare. So you have to think about what your goal is and then how to approach it from multiple angles, and then you'll have a better idea of what products will be suitable to your routine. So once we've got that, we can move on to the actual ways in which various ingredients play together. Okay, number one, mixing products is very, very different from layering products. Meaning, if you take two separate products and dispense them onto your fingertips and mix them together, apply it to the face, that is completely different than applying one product to the face, maybe waiting it to absorb a little bit, and then applying a second product to the face. And the reason for this is because some ingredients don't play well together. And so they need to get into the skin, get absorbed by the skin, before the second ingredient can be applied without having a negative impact on the other. So never mix skincare together unless it's indicated to do so. Like for example, Zeo Skin Health has the blending cream, which is a hydroquinone formulation, which is meant to be combined with a retinol. That is a very specific category, but in general, layer, don't mix. In this particular case, the exception goes to the Formulators. Formulators take into account which ingredients do and don't work well together. And so in their formulation, they create specific, whether they're vehicles or encapsulation systems, that allow various ingredients that normally wouldn't go well together to work just fine in a single product. So if it's designed that way, it's okay to use, but for you to mix two separate products together may not be a good idea. Number 2 is my friends and foes category. So beginning with face washes, the pH can matter. If you wash your face with an acidic pH cleanser, something that has acids in it, for example, alpha hydroxy acid, salicylic acid, you lower the pH of the face, and that enhances the absorption of vitamin C in the L-ascorbic acid, and it can also enhance absorption by causing irritation with other acids. So keep in mind that lowering the facial pH with your wash can affect the absorption of subsequent acids. So if your goal is to optimize the absorption of vitamin C in the form of L-ascorbic acid, you may choose a lower pH face wash. Next up, benzoyl peroxide. The way benzoyl peroxide works is by creating free radicals, which then attack the bacteria on the skin and help fight acne. But in producing free radicals, it will essentially use up any antioxidant that you may be applying onto the skin. Now, the caveat with this is if you use a benzoyl peroxide face wash, these effects won't be as pronounced as if you were to apply a benzoyl peroxide onto your face as a gel or a spot treatment. But keep in mind that the free radicals in the benzoyl peroxide will cancel out antioxidants, the activity of kojic acid, azelaic acid, vitamin C, and hydroquinone. The exception to that, adapalene. Adapalene actually works really well with benzoyl peroxide. So if you use those two ingredients or those two products, then you're fine. Next up, salicylic acid. Friends of salicylic acid, as I mentioned in the washes, would be vitamin C's and acids. The salicylic acid will lower the pH and help absorption of vitamin C and other acids, which could cause irritation. Now, the foes of salicylic acid would be oils. So if you think about the purpose of applying salicylic acid onto your skin, it's usually to get that acid into the pores, to break apart the debris and the lipid substance in the pore and clean out the pore that way. So if you apply salicylic acid on the skin and then you apply a moisturizer or with a lot of oil or an oil to the skin, the salicylic acid will start chewing the oil that you applied to the skin rather than going into the pores and working at that level, breaking up that oily debris. Another general rule to keep in mind is the teeter-totter between vitamin C and tretinoin. Tretinoin likes a neutral pH and vitamin C likes an acidic pH. So certainly mixing those two would absolutely really bring down the efficacy of both products, but you can use both in your skincare routine as long as you apply one, you wait for it to dry completely and absorb into the skin, and then you go ahead and apply another one, or perhaps you apply something else in between to begin to neutralize or acidify your skin pH depending on the order in which you're layering. Third category, easygoing friends. Ingredients that play well with everyone, don't cause any problems, and really can be applied anywhere in the sequence of layering your skincare. Number 1 in this category would definitely be niacinamide. It is a very friendly ingredient that just works well with just about all other products. And another duo that works really well together is retinol and bakuchiol. Those two play really well together. Number 4 would be the hidden friends. The ingredients that you don't think about that could be hidden in a really good sunscreen that you don't then need to worry about adding to your actual skincare routine prior to sunscreen. So that most commonly includes antioxidants and oftentimes niacinamide. For example, I believe all of Color Science sunscreens have niacinamide in them. So that's a wonderful ingredient, and if you just look at your sunscreen, you will know what ingredients you don't need to worry about adding into your skincare products because they're already present in your sunscreen. I think we're on the 4th category now, and that would be concentration matters. More is not better. This is absolutely true for niacinamide, which is optimal at 3 to 5%. Anything higher can cause irritation. Azelaic acid works really well at lower concentrations. It gets into prescription strength at 15% with Finacea, but you can get very beneficial results from lower concentration azelaic acid without additional irritation. And of course, tretinoin or retinol, which really works optimally as long as it doesn't over irritate the skin. So it's always better to start at a really, really low concentration and slowly build up your skin tolerance to a higher concentration without causing irritation and inflammation and all the things we don't want in healthy, optimal skin. Category 5, irritants. Be aware of ingredients that are irritating. For example, cispera can be irritating, hydroquinone, as I mentioned, retinoids in a higher concentration, and L-ascorbic acid in a higher concentration, and of course, various acids. So if you want to combine multiple acids together, it's ideal if you find the ingredients you want in one single product that has been formulated to work as one product, rather than buying separate acids and applying them all to your face, because that can really irritate the skin. I'm not sure what number we're at for categories, but I want to dedicate a special section to choosing a sunscreen because this is so important, and so many people don't know that if they choose a sunscreen with a high SPF, that they may be completely unprotected from UVA rays, which are the rays that cause wrinkles, pigmentation, sun damage, and aging. So when choosing a sunscreen, you look for the SPF, which tells you the UVB protection, but you also know that you're using a good sunscreen if it gives you a UVA protection rating. That rating is given with plus signs, and those plus signs go to a maximum of 4. So ideally, a perfect sunscreen for you would have 3 to 4 pluses listed on the package. Then you know you're getting full broad range spectrum protection. And ideally, in addition to that, your sunscreen should protect you from blue light and infrared light. Often blue light protection comes from iron oxides, which are mineral pigments. These sunscreens are often tinted, and they are a very natural and mineral way in protecting from blue light. I am not a fan of chemical sunscreens, but a lot of people are because they do go on the skin so nicely and they play well with makeup. I'm not a fan of chemical sunscreens for 2 reasons. Number 1 is they do absorb into your bloodstream, and while there's no scientific evidence that they cause any harm in the bloodstream, they do linger there. Science has shown that they do linger there for days after application, and why would anyone want to put more chemicals into their body than necessary? So that's one reason. And the other reason is chemical sunscreens often have multiple sunscreen ingredients. And the reason for that is each ingredient covers a tiny snippet of the spectrum of the sun. So this protects from here to here, something may protect from here to here, but you're always in danger of having a little gap or suboptimal protection. Whereas mineral sunscreens, they have a very broad spectrum protection. You want a minimum of 7% zinc oxide. I say ideally over 10, but that combined with titanium dioxide will provide you with the full spectrum of light. So really make sure you're getting that UVA and UVB at least when purchasing your sunscreen. So look for an SPF number and look for the number of pluses on the bottle. And remember, 4 is the maximum. 4 pluses are the maximum rating. Next category, oil and water. It can seem counterintuitive that oily skin would need hydration, but it is actually often the case. When skin is dehydrated, it can react by producing more oil for the purpose of trapping water inside the skin and not letting it evaporate through an oily film, and also strengthening the skin barrier to prevent water evaporation. So sometimes the cure for oily skin is actually adding more moisturization and hydration, not with ingredients that are oily, but with ingredients that help retain water. Like, for example, glycerin, which is a great humectant. You want ingredients that are humectants, meaning they will provide water. And another really important way to improve the skin hydration is to actually drink enough water. So hydration comes from the inside and from the outside. And this might be a good spot to mention one general rule for skincare application, and that is to apply the watery substances first and then move up in your skincare layering to the oily and occlusive ingredients or products last. And the reason isn't so much the thickness of the product, although sometimes it is. Very watery products will absorb more easily and quicker, but also it has to do with the amount of oil in the product. Oil will block water from absorbing into the skin. So if you applied an oily product and then on top of that, anything, a hyaluronic acid, a vitamin C, they won't penetrate the oil film to get to the skin. So oil always goes last. You can think of oil as the sealant, just like the occlusives are. They really seal what's on the skin in and they don't let it evaporate, but they also won't let anything come in. That's why occlusives occlude. So watery substances first and then up to the oilier ones to lock it in. And the last category is secrets to minimize hyperpigmentation. And when it comes to ingredients, saturated fatty acids can actually stimulate the synthesis of melanin. So stearic acid and palmitic acid should be avoided, whereas unsaturated fatty acids like linoleic acid, alpha linoleic acid, and oleic acid, those are very good oils to apply to skincare routines or to skincare products for anti-hyperpigmentation. And lastly, also with hyperpigmentation, but for darker skin tones, deeper skin, is to minimize irritation. And when it comes to alpha hydroxy acid, not to exceed a 5% glycolic acid, because anything above 5% glycolic will or could cause irritation and inflammation. And if you want to be really safe with an alpha hydroxy acid, the safest would be mandelic acid. So those are the categories for what ingredients enhance each other or don't play well or get along or don't get along. And in the next video, we'll actually dive into the layering of products, and you'll have to use this video as your guideline for how you want to layer your skincare. As you saw in this video, it depends on what type of cleanser you use, what pH you want to achieve in your skin. So when you have those two together, I hope that you'll be able to make or create your own ideal skincare layering program. And this should be applicable to any skin type and all skin concerns. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would love it if you subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.